Ghost Tactical Studios. Welcome to Tactical Tuesday, live on YouTube and simulcasting on GunChannels.com. Make sure to check out our complete catalog of podcasts on iHeartRadio, iTunes, GunStreamer.com, and PodBean. What is going on, my Ghost Squad? Welcome to Tactical Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, September 18th, 2018. Welcome to the dark side. We are streaming live as always on YouTube and simulcasting as always over on GunChannels.com. By now, if you haven't figured out what GunChannels.com is, then I can't help you. You've got bigger issues than I can help you with. I am not a licensed physician, nor am I a licensed psychiatrist. So go check us out over on GunChannels.com. It's a great place to come around and hang out if you're pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment. We have a 24-hour live lobby chat going on at all times, or if you have a question or just want to hang out and talk guns, we're there. Now, obviously, no one's going to talk guns 24/7, so we can get down some rabbit holes, but for the most part, we try to stay on cue, and most of your show hosts and podcasts and content creators that you guys are watching, we're all over there, so come check us out. We are going to be taking this after it's over and putting it over on GunStreamer.com and GunTube.org and UGEtube and all of that, and obviously taking the audio into podcast form and putting that over on Spotify and iTunes and iHeartRadio, PodBean, Stitcher, and anywhere else that will take my crap. So it is what it is. We want to welcome everybody to the chat. If you're new to the channel or new to the chat, then welcome. We're glad to have you. Please go ahead and say hello in the chat over there and tell us where you're from. We can't see you if you don't say anything. If you just want to hang out and hopefully get a little dumber in the next hour, hour and a half, then welcome to the right place. We're going to make you dumber, that's for sure. Let's run through the room real quick over on Gun Channels. You got Dr. No and DT Pfeiffer, and Dr. No has already noticed the thumbnail of the gentleman that's wearing a holster that's got a metal clip with no belt. So I'm really not sure what it's clipping onto, but you know, he is very observant. I was glad that someone picked up on that. I thought it was pretty funny. Let's go out and say hello in the YouTube chat. Georgia Trucker was here a few hours ago. He said he was going to try to make it home in time. So if you're out there, we'll say hello. But MW Tactical's out there. Gun loving Grandpa Stanley, what's going on? Buck, Guitar Man Pete. You got WP, the Warsaw Patriot. D-Temps out there. Patriot in the Dark. Calaveras, the Tactical Pickle himself, is out. WP, the Warsaw Patriot. Thank you. Appreciate it. You know, I like hearing my own voice, but it's all good. Snob's wife is out there. Gunpowder Beauty says, hey, y'all. They say hey y'all in Michigan now. Just saying.
I'm a transplant. I will.
Else we got out there? Ashley. Hey Ashley, how you doing? Tardot's out there and in here. Keith Gregory, Outsider 503. What is going on? He says in all caps, hello. So hello, Outsider. David Bowling, the Kingpin is checking in. He says the Kingpin. You got the Tactical Tool Daddies out there. He said he's here for Tardot. Ozzy Osbourne, the metal god himself, he's out there. Let's see here. Am I missing anybody? I don't know if I'm. Rob D's out there. Jorge's out there. Phil M. Rivers is out there. I think I said, I might not have. But Recoil Junkies out there. I think I said, but if I didn't say Keith Gregory already, Keith is out there. Well, guys, thank you for showing up and watching / listening to what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff that I've been noticing a lot of stuff, and I'm in a lot of different groups on Facebook and all that are concealed carry groups, and a lot of good stuff out there. What's up, Travis T? Double T's out there. And talk about different things about concealed carry, some of the myths that are out there about concealed carry. Rich White, the 1%. Howdy. Hans Master. Hans is a buddy of mine from here, and he's my right hand at the range for the pistol range. So welcome to the show, Hans. But anyways, we're going to talk about some things that are going out there as far as concealed carry, some myths and some tips for people that might be newbies or newer to the carry game. What's up, user? So we're gonna try to get it going. Let's run through our esteemed panel real quick. From South Carolina, we've got he doesn't really know what he is. He is half Hatfield and half McCoy, but he calls himself the Outlaw McCoy. So what's up, Ellis? How you doing, buddy?
Watch that crap. I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me. Me and Tardot was just on my show. Had a good show. Hope yours is just as good or better.
So do I. With me, it's I can't sit there and tell you that Night Drake has the monopoly on hit or miss, because his is more with time. He doesn't know if he's going to show up, so it's hit or miss. With me, it's quality. It's hit or miss. You never know what's going to happen with mine. So it could be a good show and it could be a crap turner. So we'll find out.
Well, we are all falling behind Clover Tack over there. So
yep. Well, we try to send him the wrong link again, but we'll get to him in a second. I can't call him from Michigan. He lives in Michigan, but he's a Texan. But he is now living in Michigan. Tardot, what's going on, my man?
Oh, not much. You said you don't have any degrees to take care of people who, got some mental issues, but, you definitely got the experience. Y'all deal with us every day.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said about that, isn't there? There is something. And you got to wonder about my mental psyche if I'm sending you links. So just saying. Let's see here. Who else we got in the room? We've got the man, the myth, the legend, the Patriot in the dark. What's going on, Patriot?
I'm just happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, bro.
Man, you must be bored if you're happy to be on this show. So,
hey,
but we're glad to have you.
I'm having a great day.
That's good. I know you got some stuff coming up. I'll let you talk about some stuff here in a second. But from the great state, I guess it's a great state. It's a great state of South Carolina. Ellis is there, so I don't know really how great it is. But from South Carolina, from Munition Weapons Tactical. What's up, Mike? How you doing, buddy? Either he's away or he's not plugged in. We'll come back to Mike in a second. Tardot's better half, we all know she'll throat punch if you don't say that. So Gunpowder Beauty, what's going on?
Not much. Thank you for the invite. Just trying to get some kids ready for bed.
Yeah, we hear you, Mike. Now we hear you. What's up?
No, go ahead and let Gunpowder finish talking. I come in after her.
All right. Gunpowder.
I'm done. I'm done to get kids rallied.
There you go. So, Mike, what's going on, Mike? How you doing? How was the weekend? I know that you were. I'm really glad that you made it through the torrential downpour that you videoed, and that looked life-threatening rain to me. I'm just saying.
Man, I'm trying to tell you, the only thing I was concerned about was the paint job on the vehicle that needs a paint job, but that storm wasn't anything tragic as the news media was making it out to be here in Columbia, South Carolina. I can't speak for the coast, but I do know a couple cities in North Carolina got hit pretty bad with flooding. But here in Columbia, South Carolina, it was just rain, regular rain.
Well, the good thing is you got a car wash out of it.
Yeah, but also, the gunmobile needs a new paint job also.
Well, if you would have had a little bit more hail or something, you could have maybe parlayed that into an insurance claim,
Yeah, you know me, man. I just go with the flow. I don't look at things like that. As long as it gets me from point A to point B, I'm cool with it. I don't care how it looks. If it's scratched up, dinged up.
Fan of cars. I'm not a flashy guy. I could really care less.
Yeah, that's how I am.
All right. So once again, we've sent him the wrong link. I sent him virus after virus, and I actually got him sick for a couple of days last week, but I sent him the wrong link. I sent him the wrong time, the wrong channel, even the wrong day, and the dude still shows up. The tactical leprechaun himself. What's up, Clover? How you doing?
Peace, love, and donuts.
Peace, love, and donuts, the man says. Okay. All right. What's up with the donuts?
I don't know. Sounded good.
Sprinkles or no sprinkles?
Oh, God, no. No sprinkles. No.
Oh, no. That's a good man. That's a good man.
Ah, hell.
I'm protesting.
Yeah, you can go right ahead. It don't count, but you will. You can do it.
Well, before we get jumped into the old talk here, we're going to do our first public service announcement. So here we go.
Hey Ghost Squad, this is Sky. At Ghost Tactical, we understand the rising tensions across America regarding guns and gun control. It is more important than ever to be vigilant about our Second Amendment rights. We encourage everyone to stay informed and contact your local, state, and federally elected officials to make sure they are hearing your voice. They represent you, and without your input, their votes may be vulnerable to outside influences. We ask that you actively support any gun rights organizations such as Gun Owners of America, Second Amendment Foundation, Firearm Policy Coalition, and even the National Rifle Association. We understand you may not agree with all the politics involved with some of the organizations, but we encourage you to keep up with and support as many as you can.
Right on. So, guys, we're going to get going here with I'm going to go ahead and show that. With the talk, we're going to talk a little concealed carry myths and tips and all of that. And I've come across some myths that are interesting, and I think we'll have a good time kind of talking about these. And then obviously we want to talk into some tips for people that might be new to the game or thinking about getting their license or thinking about carrying, and maybe there's some things that can help them out as well. So the first thing I want to do real quick is run through the room and kind of talk about your initial experiences as a beginner when you first started carrying. What are some things that you have learned over the time that you've been carrying that you wish you would have known from the beginning? And we'll start with Ellis. And Ellis is a relatively new carrier in the state of South Carolina. Got his license, a few weeks ago. It took about 3.5, 4 months for you to get it, but it's been going on. You've had it for about maybe a month at the most. So what are your experiences so far?
So far, I've had relatively no experiences. I've carried the gun every time I go out the door. Nobody looks twice at me. Didn't figure they would. I wear it to work. Nobody notices. Nobody cares. So, as far as myths go, I think the biggest myth out there is you have to have some kind of special training to carry a gun to defend yourself. People have been carrying guns to defend themselves without training for how long has firearms been around? Hundreds of years.
Right.
Don't buy into the crap, guys. If you carry the gun, the training will come. Just give it time.
I hear you. And let's go to Tardot. Now, Tardot, being in Texas and now being in Michigan, obviously there are some things that you're having to go through with residency and all that. But besides that, when you're talking about carrying itself, is there anything in particular that you wish you would have known in the beginning that you know now, whether it's clothing or anything that you could give as a tip to a beginner that you wish you knew ahead of time?
Yeah, the biggest thing actually is clothing, and that was probably the biggest issue I had to start with was just understand. You'll see sites, you'll see comments talking about, you need to buy pants that are 2 sizes bigger, 3 sizes bigger, and you don't. Because I found that when I started carrying and I bought pants that were a couple sizes bigger because trying to accommodate for the gun, and I started putting those on with the gun, I found that I had to cinch my belt up even tighter because my pants are falling down because it's got a gun in it now. Just keep that in mind. Just dress as you always do. You'll find that it's actually really easy if you're trying to do inside the waistband, that it is easy to get it into your pants at your normal size. It's not that difficult.
No. Now I gotta bring something up here because I'm getting ready to freak out here. Now Ashley's out there saying that she is not able to carry at her work. What the hell's going on at GunStreamer, my man or my girl? You need to talk to Austin and all that.
Hold on.
Are you not able to carry at a place called GunStreamer.com? I'm just wondering. Enlighten me.
Hold on. I'm gonna have to jump in for my girl. Okay, she can a GunStreamer, but not the other.
I know.
I think she needs to just quit the other one and just stay GunStreamer because
I know it was awesome just one. I had to do it. Look, she's screaming, not much. I know. But it was just too easy. It was right there. Gunpowder, you're up right now. I'm bringing the women's perspective into this. What are some tips that you could probably give out to a female that's either just beginning to carry or is thinking about getting their concealed carry license? What is something that maybe tips that you wish you would have been told ahead of time?
Okay. For the women that are more blessed up top, don't be scared. You can totally carry a full-size 1911 in a femme fatale holster. It is awesome. Don't be scared about it. Sorry about it. Yeah. Shoot what's comfortable for you. And any lady out there that's wanting to get into concealed carrying, don't take your husband. Most guys think that they know, and I'm not dogging any of the guys out there. We love y'all. But a lot of y'all think, oh, I know what my wife is going to like, and then she shoots it and she hates the gun. If you really want your wife to get into shooting, let her go to a gun range and rent some guns to try them out first. Or take her to a gun shop and let her actually handle the guns so she knows what's comfortable, because that's a lot of the stories that I hear about is women who, well, my husband bought me this because he thought I'd like it, and 95% of them just don't like them. They'll use them because their husband bought it, but it's not a gun that they like or they're comfortable with or anything like that. But don't be afraid of larger calibers, because for years, that's what I really wish I had more faith in myself, because I was scared to shoot the 1911. It's in 45 caliber, and Tardot got me to shoot it one day, and I fell in love with it, and it is the most amazing gun that I've ever shot. So most of the guns that I plan on buying are 45 caliber, but that's not going to be for every woman. But definitely go handle guns before you purchase, so you know what's comfortable in your grip. Don't let your husband pick it for you, or boyfriend.
Now, Patriot, when you bring a perspective into people that are visually impaired and are gun owners that may want to carry or at least have a firearm accessible to where they are, what are some of the things that you might give some tips or some hints to those guys to sit there and say, look, because I really don't know what's more important to you. Is it comfort, or is it something, a gun that you're familiar with, or what exactly are you looking for? Or could you give some help to some other blind people that might be thinking about being a firearm owner, especially if they're going to carry?
Wow, that's a long one.
It is.
First thing I want to say is,
I know you can handle it.
Yeah. The first thing I want to say is, Tardot, hey, that's cool if you can fit in the same stuff. I probably was on that leading edge where I needed to get a bigger size, just by accident. But I know with dress clothes, I use the dress pants that are, I guess they're adjustable or whatever. They're kind of spring loaded. I guess they adjust size to size, and it's kind of nice because with the inside the waistband, it'll stretch a little bit, and then when you take it off, you're not dropping, your pants aren't falling off, and having to cinch your belt up so much. So that, look into those for the dress pants. I like them, whatever. But the click belt, that was my first thing that I really wish I would have got in the first place. It is a gun belt, so it does have the the tension and the rigidity, but it's adjustable just for those reasons, between wearing shorts or dress pants or jeans or work clothes or whatever.
Now, are you the click belt like just a generic belt that has a clip on the front, or the brand Click?
No, the Core Essentials click belt. It's the
Okay.
gun belt, but it adjusts half-inch. You know, it's got kind of a ratchet style. But be
Yeah.
careful with those, because if you get them too tight, your legs will go to sleep.
Yeah.
So, but as far as for the visually impaired, don't fall into this thing where you have to have a 9mm or higher, or you're not going to do good or whatever.
Right.
There's this thing that, sighted people, they have this idea that they're going to shoot across the parking lot or across the mall, or all this tactical stuff. With the visually impaired, the threat is a lot closer, because I'm going to wait until I'm hands on, and so I don't need larger caliber and stuff. So with being visually impaired, the hearing is a big thing. I don't want to shoot something that's going to impair my hearing for half a second, let alone a minute, while something's going on. So that's just a consideration.
Right. There's some talk out there about training and all of that, and we'll get into training here in a bit. But let's keep the conversation going, because it's an interesting thing when people too about training and the difference between training and practicing, and is training good or not. So we'll kind of go into that in a second. Let's go to Mike real quick. Excuse me. Now, Mike is a firearm instructor and doing CCW classes. What are kind of some of the tips that you will tell your students that may be completely new to firearms? Whether that, I'm talking about they're new to CCW. I'm talking about they're completely new to firearms. What are some of the tips that you find are probably the most helpful when you first start out in the class?
Don't be scared to spend your money. So even though you go to a gun store and you see the gun for $250, and then you look over to the right or left and you see another gun that's $800, $1,200, save up your money and get a quality firearm. At the same time you get a quality firearm, make sure you get quality gear that goes with that firearm. So for me, I always recommend that people always get some form of a Kydex holster. At the same time you get a belt, make sure you get a rugged, sturdy, tactical, tight belt. Like, don't get the leather belt at Walmart or Kmart. And just like someone has said earlier, buy your clothes to fit, so you don't have to buy your pants 2 sizes bigger just because you're going to, carry inside the waistband. Buy your clothes to fit. Everything else is going to accommodate, the give and take of it.
Sure. And that's great stuff, because the belt is so important that most people don't realize. Is if you don't have a good quality belt, then it really doesn't matter what kind of holster. And if you guys had noticed, the reason why I bring up the belt is there's a reason why I put the thumbnail that I did. If you notice the thumbnail, and you might have to go back and look at it, homie's not wearing a belt. He's got a clip-on inside the waist holster with a metal clip that's not clipped onto anything. So don't be this guy. Don't be this guy. Clover, you've been carrying for a while, both open and concealed. When you start talking to people about concealed carry, what are maybe the first kind of questions that you get asked about carrying?
Caliber almost always comes up.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I had a conversation with a guy the other day that wanted to find his wife a like a 10-shot 22 mag revolver for her to carry, and I was like, really? I'm like, yeah, I mean it could work, but first of all, that's an extremely hard find if you know anything about firearms, and then second of all, you could get something like a 380 very easy, and a little more defensive capability in that. I don't want to say stopping power, because I think we're going to get into that maybe with the whole myth situation, but
Very well.
I don't know, something a little more defensively capable, obviously smaller, be able to conceal it and that sort of thing. So that inevitably comes up. The whole revolver semi-auto debate obviously comes up. So we usually talk about that. And then where you carry and back in the day anyway, not so much anymore, but back in the day before we had the open carry here and it didn't matter, the whole printing and worrying about people seeing it. And, like 90% of people are walking around with Superman X-ray vision and can see under your shirt or something. It's
or
ridiculous.
even why are they looking at your hips to begin with?
Yeah. Like, maybe, if we're very gifted people out there, then maybe they might be looking that direction. But on me, not a whole lot going on down there, I promise you.
Yeah, I want to go through some stuff that a bunch of people over on Concealed Carry Nation. It's a group that I belong to over on Facebook. Awesome people over there, really good stuff. But some of the stuff that they kind of sent in, don't tell people you're armed, carry in the chamber, and use your holster as a safety. Be mindful of printing if your state laws or whatever have laws about printing. Just be mindful of that. Dave White out there said, everyone is not looking at you. They don't somehow know you're carrying a firearm unless you're, telling them they are. And then get a good belt, kind of what we've already talked about. Jesse Bell out there says that I hear this a lot. If it's a good shoot, you won't go to court, be arrested, or even be charged. That's an interesting one. We'll get into that a little bit. And then there was talking about different stuff with don't practice. Roger Goss out there said, do not practice until you get it right. Practice until you cannot get it wrong. And I think that was an awesome statement that when you talk about practice, and let's go ahead and jump into the training versus practice and all of that. And I think that the discussion that's been out there back and forth about training is, I think that if you're going to take, my take is this, if you're going to take the CCW training, then make sure it's not just shooting at a paper target, but also you don't have to go and get $1,000 or $500 training to, breach doorways and how to, tactically clear a room with a 4-man fire team and this, that, and the other. If you're looking to get training, make sure that it is training that revolves around the movements and the thought processes of shooting your firearm under stressful situations, because most of us do not shoot our firearms at the range when you're just standing and shooting a paper target. You never have shot your guns with an accelerated heart rate. You've never shot your guns with pressure or stress. You've never shot one probably with sweaty hands. Sweaty hands. So if you're going to go get some training, make sure that it's training based around something that's going to get your heart rate up, something that's going to make you control your breathing, something that's going to make you think and learn how to move. Because once again, if you're practicing with a paper target, you're standing still. Well, very seldomly in a self-defense shoot or a concealed carry shoot are you ever going to be standing still, and very rarely is the aggressor or the bad guy going to be standing still as well. So learn how to move to cover, learn how to shoot from behind cover, learn how to reload and to draw your weapon from your holster. Now, when it comes to practice, my take is this: practice with a purpose. Please, if you're allowed to at your range, please practice drawing your gun from your concealed carry position. Use your holster, use your belt that you're going to carry every day, and learn how to shoot from the draw. Learn how to acquire a quick sight picture. Learn how to move and shoot on a retreat or moving sideways or whatever, because these are all real world applications. So I'm going to go back through the room the opposite way, and I'm going to go with Clover. And I know Clover is real big on saying that he's never had any basically formal training.
Nope.
But I know that you take being a concealed carry firearm owner very, very seriously. So if you were able to give a beginner one of the biggest things that you do when you practice, as far as for practicing for concealed carry, what is one of the things that you really focus on?
I like the whole movement, not being static on your end.
Right.
Take a step back, drop down to a knee, take a step to the side, some kind of motion, because especially if you're ever in a situation where they're trained on you, right? Or even in your direction, then that motion can at least throw them off while you go through the whole draw thing. That's assuming that you can't find cover. And of course, the first thing that pops into my mind is, get behind a table, a chair, a wall, something, right? Yeah, but the whole training thing, and there was a lot of banner out there in the chat on that. And there seems to be two extremes. There seems to be the people that say, "Oh, you don't need nothing, just buy a gun and start carrying it," and then there's the ones that say, "Oh, you have to go take Geiger and Pinkus and everybody's classes out there," And I get both ends. I get the easy way of just buy a gun and get out there. Okay, that does draw a certain demographic of people into the fold, into the community, because it makes it easy. Okay, I get that. And then again, I get the other extreme as well, because it's like, well, we don't want to be promoting just anybody carrying anything and not having any kind of training, practice, education on it. So I get it too. And I think that, like with a lot of things, reality lies in the middle, and there's way too many videos. And I'm not talking about watching stupid YouTube videos of random people or whatever. But, for example, I'll use Pinkus, for example, because I've got a DVD collection of his that is 10 or 15 years old, still relevant today, and you could certainly put that in, and go through the motions, dry fire, in your living room, and then go out to the range. And, I don't know that you can find those videos on YouTube or some online source, but I'm sure he's probably got them available somewhere. I would have to think, and other good trainers do too. So you don't have to spend that $500,000, $1,500, on a one-time deal, and then you forget by the time you get home half of what you've learned. You can invest in one of those DVD sets or something like that, and then you can just go back through those 2 or 3 years later if you want to.
Good point out here. Travis T out there says new shooters, trigger and muzzle discipline is number one. I think that's for any new shooter, not just concealed carry. That's got to be the number one thing, is they need to learn. And we had our 4 safety rules of firearms, and I get that. But yes, muzzle discipline is number one. I had a fun shoot at my local range this weekend that me and Hans kind of put on. And a couple different times throughout the day, we had to remind people, muzzle, muzzle, muzzle. And when you're not used to shooting from the draw, you're not used to moving laterally or backing up in the retreat, it's amazing what you think you're doing right. And because you're not thinking, because you're doing something new, you start flagging people or getting close to flagging people. And once again, that's where it comes into it, whether it's training or practice, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you're always cognitive of where your muzzle is, where your trigger finger is. If you're going to be moving, make sure your finger's off that trigger. If you're going to, and this is one of those things where I got flagged a couple weeks ago by someone. I was working a stage, and she carries small of the back. And that's how she carries, but she has never drawn from the small of the back and fired. And when she did, I was behind her holding the timer and all that. And I was right there, and she pulled and she flagged me, and I jumped. It scared me. And she never even thought about it. And it wasn't that she was doing it on purpose, but she had never practiced. So this past Sunday, she comes up and she's got inside the waist holster on her right hip instead of small of the back. And she said, maybe think about, until I get more proficient and get better with it, I don't think it's a good idea for me to carry, just in case I ever have to pull it. The last thing I want to do is flag someone behind me and not even realize it. So lessons are learned, but that's what training and practicing is all about. Gunpowder. What kind of tips or drills or anything when you practice and you go to the range, is there anything that you specifically practice for when it comes to concealed carry, or are you just kind of getting led down range?
I'm sorry, repeat it one more time. I had kids.
That's all right. No, when you go to the range and you're shooting, are you practicing, or are you just kind of getting led down range and making, sure you're handling the firearm right? Or is there anything that you do in particular to practice for concealed carry?
I'm kind of an oddball when it comes to this. Every time I go to the gun range, it's for a purpose. I'm practicing in case I get in a situation that I would have to pull my trigger on somebody. So when I'm looking at the paper target, which mostly we use paper targets, it's the person who I'm defending myself or my children against. And so I go with pretty much a purpose. I don't go just to let off steam. I try to make sure that my aim is still where I need it to be, how many shots it takes me to get back in range of where I want to be, which is usually like 1 or 2. But with our move, I'm still looking for a gun range. So
you'll find one. You'll find one.
Yeah.
Unknown user out there says, keep it in the holster. It's not a new toy to be played with or to show off to friends. You know, that is actually a really good piece of advice, because I think that people that are not accustomed to carrying, and they finally get their license and they start carrying it in public. I'm not even going to go to the point where they touch him, because we all know that we've all done it, but the newer carriers, they tend to always kind of check and make sure it's still there. It's there. It's not going anywhere, and you're going to know if someone's trying to pull the gun out of your holster, because hopefully you're going to feel them lift, you know, your shirt up or your jacket or whatever, but you're going to feel it. But yeah, I think he's right. You know, if you're at home, keep it carried, or if you don't like to carry it when you're sitting at the house, you know, make sure, I always keep in mind, if it's not on me, it's on, you know, a little nightstand or a table that's right next to me. It's always within, you know, arm's reach away. But get used to not pulling it out of the holster just out in public or at home and showing it. Yeah, keep it in the holster. The more and more you get used to pulling it out of your holster, then more you're going to do it without thinking out in public, and you're just defeating the purpose of concealed carry. So, yeah, keep it in the holster until you need to. You know, that's a really good point. Anybody have anything on that as far as keeping in the holster? What do you guys feel about that? And I'm not going to go to anybody in particular, just anyone that has a comment, you can feel free to jump in. Nobody. All right, let's go to Mike. Mike, when you are training or you're practicing, and there is a difference, what are some of the things that you personally work on when it comes to concealed carry?
First thing I work on is when I go to the range, I always pull from the conceal position. So I appendix carry. So every time I always wear a different shirt. So you have to get used to pulling that garment. So before I even leave the house, I do a couple dry fire runs, you know, before I even walk out the house. And then when I get to the range, I reinforce that training. But when I'm pulling the trigger, the first thing I always work on is concentration drills. So I'm standing at least 10 meters from the target, and I'm trying to get like keyhole all my shots. So I do that for maybe about 10 or 15 minutes. And then after that, I'm working on various drills. And one of my favorite drills is shooting while moving, you know, because in a real gunfight, which, you know, we've already experienced from being overseas, nothing happens standing still, you know. So actually moving from point A to point B while shooting. And if somebody's out there with me, and then I try to incorporate the buddy team movement, you know.
Yeah, Hadi, I got my text, but dude, I'm right in the middle of a show, so I'll have to look at it later. I can't take the time to look at a text and reply to it. So I'll look at it later. Thanks. And yeah, I'll look at it and I'll respond here when I can. Yeah, and shooting on the move, like I said, that is such a crucial thing, because most people they go to the range and they just stand there and they shoot at a target that's not moving either. And that is so far from a real world scenario that I think that people are actually giving themselves a disservice by not trying to get some movement in and all that.
That's not necessarily their fault either, because and a lot of ranges have rules in place for safety. So when other people try to incorporate something simple as moving and shooting or drawing from the holster, somebody probably shot themselves in the leg pulling from a holster because they had a cheap holster, you know, or somebody was trying to shoot while moving, and somebody accidentally either got grazed or almost got shot because they wasn't at that experience level. So they incorporated that move. You can't do this now, you know. So it's understandable at times, but in real life, we can sit here and look at it and it was like, this ain't right because of what if. You know, we could play the what if game all day.
Hey, Sam. Yeah, and I want to go back to one thing you brought up also is about dry firing, and that's something that people they forget about too. Is dry firing is such a crucial thing in practicing and training that a lot of people don't have the time to get to the range, or they don't have a range that will allow them to draw. And if that is the case, that doesn't mean you can't practice. It doesn't mean you can't train. It just means you can't do it at the range. You know, I'm all for take the magazine out, make sure that there's not anything chambered, make sure that it's a safe environment, make sure that all of the safety precautions are in place. Put the gun in your holster, put the holster inside your belt or outside, wherever you want to carry, or shoulder harness or ankle harness, however you carry, get it there and spend half an hour at least once a week doing nothing but drawing, picking out a point on a wall or a TV screen or something, acquiring your target and getting some dry fire in, because it's not necessarily just the shooting aspect that makes you proficient. It's being able to handle that gun and being comfortable enough. Like Mike says, most of the accidents that happen at a range are because people aren't comfortable enough or they're not experienced enough. So become experienced and become comfortable by doing it dry fire at the house or wherever you are. Sit there at the office. If you got 15 minutes left in your lunch break and you're sitting there in your office and you got nothing to do and you're able to carry, dry fire. Do something. Go outside to where, your car or somewhere. Dry fire all that you can, because it does help you in so many ways. And that's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Mike.
Hey, no problem. No problem. Like I said, but I also, I dry fire at least 15 to 20 minutes every night before I go to bed.
Yeah, I mean, I'll dry fire every day, but at least if you're getting half an hour dry fire in a week, it's better than not doing anything. And like I said, even if you're not even going to pull a trigger, if you don't feel comfortable pulling the trigger inside the house, you can still do draw techniques and learning and being more comfortable drawing from your holster inside somewhere else where you're not actually going to shoot the firearm. So, drawing is just as important as pulling that trigger, because if you're not comfortable and you have issues with drawing, then it doesn't matter, because you probably don't get a shot off if you can't draw the gun properly, because the bad guys probably got you. So yeah, exactly. Now, Patriot out there, when you talk to people about practicing and training, and I know that you have a little kind of a community of visually impaired gun owners, do you guys talk about training or practicing? Or, when you go to the range, I know that you go to the range and you said sometimes people look at you weird because, what's this blind guy doing? And you actually end up shooting better than they do. But, when you go to practice, what are some things? Because I'm imagining it's much more about feel than anything. So what are things that you practice on?
I have several things. All right. At the range, my range, you can't draw. You're pretty much, you're just standing there. But one thing I'd like to do at the outdoor range, if you use multiple targets, all right, maybe I'm standing static, but I can shoot, different, it's offset or whatever. I do use two of the key fobs, like with most of my training, that's long distance. Now that is shooting, okay, and that is trigger control and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that is different, that if I'm in a situation where somebody's on me, because that's my situation, obviously being totally blind, is a little different. Somebody, I'm not going to be shooting across anywhere unless it's in my house, and that's something different. But they're going to have hands on me, so I'm not going to press center and press out and shoot, because somebody's right next to me or on me or got hands on me. And so a lot of times I try to do I don't know what you call it, kind of like a low ready shoot or something, where you're not pressed out, but it's offset to the side. You're at an angle so that the flash, anything, is it going to hit you? The rounds that are expelled are off to the side. They don't come up in your face or anything like that. Where you have it at a slight cant or whatever, but it's closer to the body, just off, so that you have control of it. And if you're holding somebody off with your left hand, it's just out of their reach. Which obviously that sighted people obviously can do that training too, because if it gets to hands-on, there's an issue, but that kind of jumps up with me. The other thing with the dry fire, I like to do at home. I do use those key fobs. Like I said, I can use multiples, and I'll stage them around, in a room, and I'll stand there and I'll push it off and have it behind me, and so that I can focus on, where the direction they're coming from without my earmuffs, because it's just obviously just in the house and I'm dry firing, so I don't need muffs. I can hear and I can get the direction of, said threat, because in my house it is different. I will hear anybody that's in my house because, they're breathing. So that, well, for a minute at least. So, but with in the house, the dry firing, mine is a little different, obviously, than the normal sighted person, the way they go to the range and stuff. So the range is a little different. Depending on where you're at, you usually got a bench in front of you. So obviously shooting from the hip, or close to down that side, it's not something that you can actually do, unless you're, at the shotgun end or something like that, where it's, if they're not busy, or, you're at, somebody's property or something where you can actually do some of the movement and stuff like that. So my movement is going to be a little different than, rolling over a hood or, all that other tactical stuff that people like to do. I've done it, but, my situation is a little different, obviously. I mean, somebody walking with a white stick and, some low life wants to.
You're a target to begin out in public. I mean, you're automatically a target. People know.
They're not going to stay 10 feet away and, hey, I want your, they're going to just walk up because they figure, hey, this guy can't see me. They're going to put hands on me, which that right there already sets it off. They have intent. They're obviously sighted, so they have somewhat of a perceived advantage or whatever.
Perceived advantage. That's correct. Perceived advantage.
Because they just grabbed the wrong guy, I guess. But so there are several things, but I can talk for an hour about it. But yeah, they're definitely the dry fire. Regardless. I mean, if you're at home, what happens when somebody busts in that door? You're sitting on the couch. You can dry fire from your couch. You can walk in from the bathroom. Going through the kitchen and somebody kicks in the door. There's a lot of different things you can do, and any of that stuff is going to help. Just that getting that mindset that if I'm walking in here and I got a plate, drop the plate and whatever.
Use the plate as a weapon if you have to.
Yeah. Pull, right? But.
Pull. Tardot, when you go to the range and I don't know, do you and Jesse, do you guys go at the same time or do you go separately? And the reason why I ask that is this: when you go, I'll put it this way, if you go by yourself, what are some of the things that you personally work on as an individual concealed carry? And the reason why I asked if you guys go together is I actually see every now at the range there's a couple of couples. I'd say that 10 times real fast, but there's a couple of couples that go out there and they train and they practice together. And what they work on are, if they're together out in public, how are they going to worry about fields of fire and all of that as a two-man tandem? Do you and Gunpowder ever practice on, working on multiple target acquisition as a team?
I'll admit, no, we really haven't. We go to the range together, but we really haven't practiced on that. Now, obviously, if we see one or the other, doing something that's maybe making us less accurate, we usually try to correct each other. But we go in most cases with the idea of training on knowing how we're going to draw from the holster if we're able to. Sadly, a lot of the ranges we were going to in Texas, some of them you couldn't draw, some of them you could. It was always hit or miss that what you could do and what you couldn't do. And we've had the conversation before, but yeah, I'm a big, just along with Patriot and everybody, a big advocate of, take the time to do dry fire training at home as much as you can. And I'm a big advocate of train yourself to have a form of just knowing your surroundings, that being aware of just the people that are there, what you can use for concealment, what you can use for cover if something were to happen. So that way, when you're walking into a place, you don't want to necessarily be walking on eggshells everywhere you go. But if you train yourself just to see it as you're going in, you're automatically just gonna think about it without thinking about it, I guess you could say. It just comes
exactly
where you can go. And it's as simple as, train your mind using play memory. I mean, it sounds weird, but play memory, show off a bunch of objects and then ask what color was the vase and then see if you can remember it, just different things like that. So you can remember different details. You can know to look for the details, just, it's really just training your mind and knowing what your surroundings are and what you can and can't do.
Right. Now I want to go through a couple comments from out in the chat. I'm kind of behind, but I want to bring these up. Let's see here. Sam of Anarchy says ankle holsters, unless it's a backup gun, are not practical. And there's a lot of people, I would personally tend to agree with that, just because the action of drawing from an ankle holster is going to be slower. It's going to be awkward depending on what position you're in, if you're sitting down or you're standing up or whatever. But there are a lot of people that you will use them, especially if they're in like workout gear with warm up or sweatpants. That's the only thing they can do. If that's the only place and only way that you can carry, then by all means do it. But if there are more practical ways of carrying than using an ankle holster. Let's see here. There's something talking about, I missed, I have to go back up. Oh, unknown user says, someone tells me that Patriot in the dark would not make a good target for mugging. Patriot, have you ever been a target for a mugging?
That's kind of funny. Not while I've been blind.
Really?
I was actually, yeah. I actually was jumped with a shotgun when I was younger.
But you were sighted at that point.
But yeah, that was
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, Mateo out there says TV is also a dry fire practice. Yeah, TV is a great place to dry fire. If you sit out there and pick out a bad guy in a TV show, they're moving on a TV set, it might work for you. I'm sorry, what were you going to say? Let's see here. Outsider says, on a long haul trucker away from home a lot, what would you suggest for practicing in such tight quarters? Well, I would sit there and say this, and I don't want to do this while you're driving, Outsider, but obviously you're going to have some downtime where you're sleeping in the cab or at night, wherever you sleep. If you are sleeping in the cab, obviously I'm hoping that you're allowed to carry if you're on a long haul trucker. Some actual trucking companies don't allow their drivers to, but hopefully you are allowed to carry. What I would sit there and say is during your time that you're not driving, that you're still inside the truck, I would probably suggest that you, wherever you keep your gun or shotgun or whatever you're carrying in the truck, go ahead and practice from that position. If you're in the back of the cab getting some rest, you can dry fire just laying down somewhere, point up to the ceiling or something. There's hey, what's up? Hey, 37 Money Train just got in. What's going on, my man? No, but there are a lot of different places that you can practice and train inside a very, very small confines. All you need is about 3 feet of space to have a target in front of you. And it could be a dot on a wall. And that you work on your discipline, your trigger discipline, your muzzle discipline. You work on your grip, your trigger pull, your breathing. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do in a very little, if any, space at all. You always are going to have room maybe pointing up. So if you have to, lay down and point at the ceiling of the cab or the truck or whatever. But there's all sorts of stuff that you can do. But anybody else have any hints or tips for Outsider, for anyone that's out there on long haul truckers?
Yeah, one thing you can do, even if you're in a truck, you can sit there and, like you said, point at the wall, but take an empty casing and balance it on your front sight post and work on that trigger control. Because if it falls down, you know what I'm saying, it's either your pull, your breathing, your body position. So you just got to figure out what is wrong for that casing to fall, to work on it. And then if you can keep it on there for at least 15 tries straight through, you're improving.
Yep, that's a good one. I like that. I like that a lot. Anybody else have any tips for Outsider? he says he's a contractor, so he carries obviously, but he has to be careful about the varying state laws. Yeah, I mean, you cross state lines, I'm assuming that when you cross into state lines, or you're going to be crossing into state lines, you've already looked up what their laws as far as carrying and traveling with guns and all of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, if you're able to, obviously, I'm not telling you to break a law, but if you're able to, then go ahead and get as much practice as you can, and you get some downtime. All right, so what I want to do real quick is we're going to start getting into myths, and this is going to be some fun stuff. But before we do, I'm going to go into my second PSA, and obviously and ironically, it has something to do with training. So here we go.
Hey Ghost Squad, this is Sky. We here at Ghost Tactical would like to continue the trend of becoming more involved in any gun safety and training. We encourage everyone, no matter your skill level, to continuously look for training in your local area. We think that taking a gun safety course every other year is important. We also believe that taking classes and training for self-defense and home defense are extremely important. Make sure to go looking for classes and training opportunities when you can. This not only helps you become more proficient with your firearm, but it helps support your local instructors and Second Amendment community as a whole. Back to you, Ghost.
There you go. So ironically, we did talk about training and all of that. So, all right. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about some myths that are out there that the anti-gunners might have about concealed carry. Now, here's something that I want to bring up, and you guys feel free to jump in however you want to. You don't have to, raise your hand in the classroom and wait to be called. Go ahead and jump in. But I want to make a statement real quick, because there's something that I'm kind of getting tired of, and it's not anyone in particular. It's just as a community as a whole. A lot of people, when they go on their rants about anti-gunners, they like to say, and I've been guilty of it as well. So I'm saying it for me also. I've been guilty of calling the left or the liberals and all that. Guys, I hate to, pop your bubble here, but there are many, many people that are conservatives and even registered Republicans that are anti-gun as well. So instead of saying the left or the liberals and keep feeding that fight, I wish we just to come anti-gunners, because anti-gunners are from every religion, race, political associations, ideology, social, backgrounds. They are part of the right as well. So, just because they're a Republican or the conservative does not mean that they're pro-gun. So, I don't want to say the left. So I'm going to say is there are myths out there that anti-gunners have about concealed carry. So I'm going to put my guests on a spot here. I'm going to give each one of them individually a myth, and I want you to kind of get your thoughts on this myth. And then once that person has done it, then the other panelists can jump in and if they have anything to add. But each panelist is going to get a myth that I've come across. I've kind of gotten some written down here that are sometimes funny, and sometimes they're actual, wow, that's actually being said out there. So I'm going to start with, let's start with Tardot. We're going to start with Tardot. And the first myth out there is letting people conceal carry is going to increase crime. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about that. Permitting concealed carry handguns increases crime. What would you say to that if you're brought up, someone brings it up and say, why are you carrying? That's just going to increase crime. What is your response to that, Tardot?
Well, sadly, I've got horrible memory when it comes to actual statistics, but I know that when you go to FBI sites and everything else, you find out that there's, and I know they say it's somewhere between a couple 100,000 and it's like a couple million or a million times a year that there are crimes stopped because people are concealed carrying. And then when you turn around and actually look at it, when you look at crimes actually committed because of people being able to concealed carry, that number tends to be zero. So when you compare those numbers, there's no way to really say that that's committing a crime or causing the commission of a crime. It's actually more likely to stop a crime from happening to begin with.
Very good. Anybody else have any statements on permitting concealed handguns increases crime?
Not about increasing, but I do believe it decreases because of that one city in Georgia that passed that ordinance that every household or every person should carry. I can't remember exactly how it went, but their crime rate actually reduced by like less than 1% or less than 2% or something like that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go to you real quick, Mike, and this is kind of something that's along the same lines, but carrying a concealed handgun increases the chances of a confrontation escalating and turning lethal. So that is a myth by the anti-gunners that says by carrying a concealed handgun, that increases the chances of a situation escalating and turning into a bloodbath or whatever. And what would you say to that argument?
I would say false on that one, because of the fact if I carry conceal, obviously I got the element of surprise, and if I train, it's even greater for the element of surprise. But at the same time, if you're carrying a firearm, you're going to be a little bit more apprehensive about pulling out that handgun, because you're not just going to pull it out just because somebody says something to you.
Right.
You're going to try to, get away from it, try to calm it down, and, get control of the situation and maybe walk away, or they walk away. But, anytime somebody pull out their firearm, it should be the threat has already presented itself. It shouldn't be, I think it's going to be the threat.
Right. All right. Gunpowder. I've got one for anybody else have any statements on that one about carrying a gun is going to escalate confrontations. Anybody have anything to add? Feel free. All right. The third myth. This is for gunpowder. This is a good one. The Second Amendment has limits. We've all heard this one before. We've all heard it. But what would your response be? Someone who comes and says, "Oh, the Second Amendment has limits."
I'm so sorry. The house got a little loud.
Good.
Second Amendment has what?
Has limits. If someone's walk up to you and say you shouldn't be able to carry, the Second Amendment must have limits. I don't believe that concealed carry should be available to anyone because the Second Amendment has to have restrictions.
Ooh.
It's a good one, isn't it? Anybody else that wants to jump in and help her? I know she's probably been busy with the kids.
Yeah, I'll jump in and help her out. Second Amendment, it doesn't have limits because it really doesn't cover concealed carry.
Just right.
The states actually regulate the laws when it comes to concealed carry.
That's a bad example, man. That's not a myth.
Yeah.
Second Amendment totally has limits. It limits the federal government from infringing on our right to keep and bear arms.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
Well-regulated militia necessary to the security of a free state.
That's what you tell them is, yeah, certainly it does have limits.
Infringed.
It sure does have limits. You're right. I agree with that. I agree with you. It has limits. It limits the federal government.
That's right. That's right. No doubt about it.
As does the rest of the Bill of Rights.
All right. So, Clover, this one's for you.
Oh.
Criminals are more likely to carry a gun if they suspect that victims or their prey or innocent bystanders may also be armed. I've actually heard this one before. Well, if concealed carry guys, everyone knows if concealed carrying, then the criminals are going to start carrying even more guns.
No. I mean, if you go through Bureau of Prisons and you go through a lot of their reports where they have interviewed those that have used firearms in a crime, then the overarching theme of most of that is that they target places that they know people, gun-free zones. They know people aren't carrying. So, that's definitely not consistent with saying that, well, if they're going to rob that place, they're going to case that joint, and if people are carrying guns, they're going to bring more guns or bigger guns. That's kind of that's kind of an asinine statement to make. They're going to go the path of least resistance, and the path of least resistance is a gun-free zone. regardless of whether they're gonna, they plan to use clubs or knives or whatever, right?
Right. All right. So I'm gonna start going back the opposite way, and I'm gonna go. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna take this into gunpowder. Jesse, are you there? Are you with the kids? Can you hear me?
I walked outside, so I'm good.
Okay. I'm gonna put this one out there. Concealed carry people do not prevent crimes from happening. You hear that all the time. Well, people that conceal carry, they're not stopping crimes because the crime rate's as high as it ever has been. So they're not stopping any crimes. So why do you need to carry? I'm going to sit there and ask you, myth or is it true?
I'm going to call it a myth because, I don't know. I could see how I have a few friends that I could see them walking up to me actually saying that, but I'm going to call it a myth because I don't think that I don't know. That one's a tough one. I'm going to go with myth.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is too. I mean, you're talking about, and it kind of goes along to what Clover was saying also is I've actually seen reports and I've seen interviews that are on like Dateline and all those that have gone into prisons that are with felons that are there with aggravated assault. And they have literally said on camera, and there's been numerous studies that said that convicted felons that are convicted of an aggravated assault, all of them said, if I knew that the person that I was getting ready to go attack or rob or whatever was carrying a gun, I wouldn't go there. I'd go somewhere else. So I think that if the more people that are concealed carrying, the chances of preventing a crime before it happens are just that much better. I do think that bad guys, whatever you want to call them, people that are looking to do harm to the public are more likely to go somewhere like gun-free zones that they know that there will be much less restrictions on who's going to have it, or much more restrictions on who's going to have a gun, which means they're probably going to be the only ones with a gun. So I think they're definitely more likely to go somewhere that they don't feel a threat.
Absolutely. I know that if I walk, maybe I am concealed carrying, but if I'm walking around in my gun gal shirt or a Joe's Outdoor shirt that has the pistol on it, that has the Second Amendment written on it, I don't think someone's going to try to mess with me or my kids thinking, well, she likes guns, she probably has one on her.
Right.
I do want to throw in there too, because
go for it.
Talking about that, I mentioned that statistic earlier, and that was a big thing when that study was done. And forgive me because I can't remember the specifics of who it was that did the study talking about when concealed carriers were actually preventing crimes. And the big part of that and why that number was so huge is because there's so many that aren't reported because the crime isn't actually committed. They see a gun, they run, and for some reason or another, nobody calls the cops. Nobody reports it. Somebody's open carrying and a guy walks up and is going to commit a crime. There's no way you're going to know that, hey, that was prevented. And that's a big thing that a lot of the anti-gunners miss is you can't prove or disprove that a crime was, prevented because of somebody open carrying at the gas station.
Mm-hmm. Now, Einstein out there says, sort of true. He carries for self-defense, not to prevent a crime. And I understand what you're saying. And Mateo kind of thinks the same way I am. He comes back and says, but you are preventing crime. If the criminal can't assault or kill you, you have indeed prevented a crime. So not only, protecting yourself, but your family or other innocent public bystanders that you might be able to help protect in a certain situation. So understanding that everyone has their own reasons to carry. We get that. But one of the responsibilities, if you're going to carry, one of the things you have to understand is it is your responsibility to a certain extent of protecting people that can't protect themselves. So I want to go real quick to Clover. I only got a couple more myths I want to talk about. But one of them is this: public safety should be left to law enforcement and law enforcement only. What are your thoughts on that one there, Clover?
I was muted. Sorry.
all right.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, when seconds matter, law enforcement, in my case, is only hours away. So, yeah. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. You know, people have to get over this misconception that, and this has been going on. This is true. This holds true for years and years and years and years. This is not a recent thing. I mean, you can go back to the 1800s or something, and the situation is the same with law enforcement. You know, they're there to figure out what happened. You know, help the funeral home or the mortician bag you up and ship you off, and hopefully, maybe, assuming they can collect enough evidence, catch whoever did it and punish them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Law enforcement really is not there to prevent anything.
I think that the old adage of to serve and to protect, they are. I mean, they are there to serve and to protect. They are there to protect the community from crime from happening and all of that. But it's like you said. I mean, especially
they protect in the capacity of removing the criminal element from the street. Drug things, you know, they don't catch people in, you know, in self-defense, whatever, attacking other people's situations most of the time. They're catching people maybe before they get to that point. You know, that person is you know, burglarized homes and nobody's there. Well, you know, finally they burglarized the home, somebody was there, but they got away, so they catch them so that person doesn't do it again, and then you're faced with a self-defense situation, right? So it's that sense of protection, and people have gotten to where they've got this mentality with the serve and protect, and we all know what the serve means, because police play law enforcement, I should say, not police, but law enforcement play a big role in most any community, and the smaller it is, usually the larger the role is that they play, from dog catcher to you know, spousal disputes to playing basketball with the kids on the street corner, right, or whatever. But with the whole protect thing, people see that as they're literally your bodyguard, and that's not what that means.
Yep. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, I was saying, yeah, that's not the case at all. And there's a great quote out here. I want to say maybe it was Hans. Yeah, it was Hans. He says, Hans says, police are a responsive entity. It's up to us to keep yourself and neighbors safe. Sometimes they just happen to be in the right place at the right time. And I'm going to go on and say, yes, you're right. And I'm going to add what Clover said, especially in the area that I live. When seconds matter, they're only hours away, or they're only 30 minutes away, or they're only 10, 15 minutes away. Mm-hmm. Even in heavily urban area like Dallas or Chicago, and I know Chicago is kind of screwed with their gun laws, but let's say Dallas, you know, you get into Dallas and there's a traffic jam or there's a wreck, the police could be an hour away and they might be around the block. So yeah, it is up to us to protect our own. It is up to us to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to help protect our own community and not expect and want others to protect us. When you give your life and your well-being and your family's well-being over to somebody else, that's when you're asking for trouble. Be self-proficient, be self-reliant, and be able to control and protect your own. That's kind of my 2 cents on that one. Let's just kind of do the last one here. We'll kind of start wrapping up after this last one. We'll go to Mike on this one. Okay. Concealed carry guns and the laws that go along with them make the non-carrying public feel less safe.
Myth.
All right.
Because
and why say?
Yeah. So if I'm concealed carry, how would you know I'm concealed carry unless I tell you?
Exactly. that was, I hear that all the time. I don't feel safe knowing that you have a gun. You don't know I have a gun. Unless I've told you that I have a gun, or actually everyone in this town kind of knows that I carry. But I mean, if you don't know me and you're just looking at me, how am I making you feel less safe? Because you don't know what I'm doing. You have no idea that I'm carrying. I hope they don't figure out that I'm carrying, because it means I'm doing something wrong, you know?
Exactly.
I've always loved that one. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, I was just going to say, let me ask you, because I remember we had this conversation one time before, but where do you carry on your body and why?
Me personally, I carried about 4 o'clock on my right hip, so it's not right on 3 o'clock. It's about 4 o'clock, maybe 4:30. Multiple reasons. One, I have found, and I've tried. Honestly, I have tried to carry appendix, small of the back. I've carried in every position around my belt. I've done cross carry just to try it out and see what I liked about it. But multiple reasons for the 4:30 carry for me is one, it's comfortable. Two, I can sit down in my car, and I actually do in my car. I have taken an old holster and I have kind of put it underneath the dash, and a lot of times I'll just put it in there, and it's full retention, so it won't slide out. But I'll put it in there. But if I don't, and I'm just carrying, that position right there is comfortable for me to where I don't feel like I need to pull my gun out while driving. The third one is, honestly, it sounds weird, but we're talking about flagging. We're talking about mechanics of shooting. When I pull from that position, my elbow isn't out of position. I pull and I can go straight up to a ready position and get a quick target acquisition. If I'm going appendix carry and you've got that chicken wing going, there's all sorts of stuff. If you're small of the back, and I know Glover carries small of the back and he's probably practiced it, but for me, I feel like I'm really in a weird position drawing that gun and flagging other people. For me, it's the safety issue. It's a comfort issue. And for me, it's speed also. I feel like I can get that gun out of my holster and into a good firing position from about that 4 o'clock position. So I hope that answers. And you want to go through the room with this, you can.
No, it was just because I had this conversation actually yesterday with a friend of mine, and he was making a big deal because I appendix carry. But
Okay.
I'm also I'm a thin guy compared to somebody that's 330 pounds.
Yeah.
So size is going to play that important part. Yeah.
Let's kind of go through that real quick before we get out of here. Let's go through, because I like that question. Tardot, your normal EDC carry position and why?
I'm normally 3:30, 4 o'clock position. The big reason why about that, now, we talk about the appendix carrying when you're a bigger guy, because I'm not 300 pounds, but I'm over 200, and it's it's not comfortable for me. That is part of it. But there are a lot of people I've seen that are big guys that will do that carry, and they say, hey, I'm just fine. It doesn't bother me. And to them, I say, hey, more power. Now, the big reason for 3:30, 4 o'clock for me is I found, like you said, it's the most comfortable. I can draw from it easy. It's easy access. And then a big thing is when I've looked, and I've heard this argument go both ways, it actually conceals really well. A lot of people will complain and say, well, when I appendix carry, it conceals so much better because look at this guy, or look at me, using the 3:30, 4 o'clock, the holster, and it's showing up. And I'm like, well, you don't have the right holster to be doing it then, because all the holsters I've used, when I carry in 3:30, 4 o'clock, it's tight to my body and nobody can see it. And I've taken pictures and done videos showing that. And it's just for the ease of access, how well it conceals. And like you said, the comfort. I don't have to adjust. I don't have to remove the gun, any of that. It can stay there, and I feel comfortable with it.
Guitar Man Pete out there says his wife got her permit in the mail yesterday. Super proud and way less worried. Guy right there. Congratulations, Pete. Congratulations to Miss Guitar. So that's awesome. And I'm looking forward to hearing some stories and maybe turn the camera on maybe a little bit and discuss some stuff. So that's great. Congratulations. 37 Money Train says he agrees that 3:30 or 4 o'clock is best for him. Hello. Phone is ringing. Sorry about that. He would love to carry appendix, but 245 pounds is not easy. Now, like I said, not every position is built for every body type. I know Cal. Yeah, I know Cal. Cal's saying that was a reference to Mike's comment. Yeah. So let's go to Patriot. When you're carrying, what position do you carry and why?
I sling it on my back. No.
Okay. Why not?
Now, normally I would say I do the 3 to 3:30, but depending on the pistol, because I mean, with different size, Like with that SP 101, I'm more of a 2:30, 2:00, 2:30, just
Okay.
because of drawing from the paddle Kydex holster that I have.
So are you inside the waist or outside the waist? Also, I forgot to ask you that.
With the SP 101, that's outside. It's a paddle holster, and it just works a lot better, a little bit more to the front. With the inside the waistband, like the 442, that's usually about a 3:30 or so. The SIG was probably a 3:00, and yeah, that area. It's just it's concealed better, I guess, and it's back, so I mean nobody sees it anyways. But nobody looks at me. But the only one that's different is that revolver as far as that SP 101. It's a little bigger, and so having it towards the front just a little bit helps me draw, I guess. I don't. So yeah.
Now, Tardot, I forgot to ask you: are you inside the waist or outside the waist typically?
Typically inside the waist. Now, with me being in Michigan and the issues we were talking about earlier, they do have, I wouldn't call it constitutional open carry, but it's just the absence of a law for open carry that you can.
So, now, for the time being, you're going to do a lot more open carry than anything else right now.
Yeah, and when I open carry, it's usually 3:00, just because that's, I mean, if I'm carrying it open, that's ease of access right there.
I'm the same way. Yeah, I'm the same way. When I go open carry, it's going to be at 3:00. Mike, since you started this whole thing, I want to hear what you have to say. So the two questions are your typical carry position and why, and inside the waist or outside.
Depending on how I dress is how I'm going to carry. So if I'm wearing like a business suit, I'm actually carrying outside the waist because the jacket is actually going to cover the conceal of the weapon or the firearm. But I prefer to carry inside the waist and appendix carry. And for me, it's all about comfort. I've tried to do 3:00 to 4:30, lower the back. It's just not comfortable for me. And like I was telling someone in the chat, I think what it is just the many years of everything we do in the military. Every transition comes to in front of us, and we don't really do anything with pulling from the backside, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. Perfect sense. Yeah.
Well, and I would put something out there too for appendix carry, for people that are looking at this, and this kind of goes along with what we started this whole chat with. We mentioned dressing like you normally do. If you wear form-fitting clothing, it may be easier to conceal appendix, if you got the right body type for it. Right. Just because I've worn tight shirts, and I'll admit there's times I've worn tight shirts that if it's like the really tight, like
extra medium.
Yeah. Like I'm looking like I'm wearing one of my toddler shirts. Yeah, then it's going to show through.
Right.
There's a lot of talk about shoulder holsters. Yeah, I've got a couple different shoulder holsters that I use in certain situations that I'm kind of more of a dress code type thing where I had to have my shirt tucked in, but I'm probably wearing a sport coat or something like that. I do have a couple different shoulder holsters. For me, I always go a vertical shoulder holster. That's just me. Some people they like the horizontal, but I don't feel comfortable flacking someone behind. Whether or not, it's whatever. I always go, but I do use shoulder holsters as well. So that's good points out there as well. Gunpowder carry position, except for, and I know you're out there talking about your flashbangs, but your carry position and why, and if you happen to go around the waist, getting away from the flashbangs, inside or outside the waist.
Okay, so I guess I can't talk about my femme fatale holster.
Do go for it.
I really love the femme fatale holster, but since we did move to Michigan and we have all of that we're gonna have to deal with, when I do carry, it will be open, and it's probably gonna be, well, it's usually like 3 or 4 o'clock, just because I do have kids. And I have to get down on the floor. I have to pick them up. Sometimes I'm carrying 2 kids at once. So with that, and it's outside the waistband, just because my clothes aren't big enough to do inside the waistband. It's just more comfortable for me, though. I'm one of those hippie girls, so it's
like peace, love, hippie, or white.
No,
hips?
like hip.
I would say both. I know you have met several times, and you are a little bit hippie also. I've seen your hair color in 4 different colors, so don't
that is true. I am a little bit hippie on that side too.
Well, and
But for
Ghost, I'm
concealed
going to tell you, I'm watching you talking about her flashbangs like that.
I put it in the comment. Like, okay, so
brought it up.
It cracks me up because when we talk about the femme fatale holster, it's right underneath the bra, and so when you have to draw, you literally have to pick up the left side of your shirt to reach from the top of the holster. And so every time I think about having to describe to somebody how I get to it, it's easier just to say it's a flashbang. You gotta lift up your shirt, show your bra, pull it out. And so I just like that holster.
Yeah, I like it. Clover, I already know the answer to this, but a lot of people may not. Carry position, why, and also inside or outside the waist.
Multiple, but most commonly,
I think we all have multiple positions depending.
I don't know that I would go. I don't know whether I would go 3 o'clock, maybe 2:30 or something. You know that belt loop on your jeans is at 3 o'clock, so it's going to be.
And that's why I'm going to go back at 4 o'clock because I like to throw that up against that back belt loop a little bit.
Yeah, see, I go up against the front of the loop.
Okay, so I go the other way. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I usually go up against the front of the loop because I want it to be a little bit easier if I have to get the holster off or whatever, especially with doing a Kydex, something that the belt goes through it. Makes it a little easier that way. You only got that one loop in front of it at that point.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, with seat belts and other things, and we get into body type, of course.
Sure.
Just where it rides and seat belt. Yeah, but I mean, it's pushing back on that 3 o'clock loop for sure. So that's why I say it's pretty close to 3. Most commonly there. Most commonly outside waistband.
Okay.
Why? You know, I don't have to worry about printing anymore here. And outside waistband, I can often tuck my shirt, and then I don't have to worry about an undershirt because I don't like the firearm against my skin, especially in Texas in the heat and the sweating and all the other stuff. So it's just, I don't know, it's just easier and more convenient that way. I don't have to worry really about what shirt I'm wearing. I just, gotta tuck it, right? Yeah. What was the other? I think that was all of them. That was all.
That's pretty much. We'll go back through the room real quick also because there's a question out there that I think that they wanted me to ask the panel. So I'll start with you real quick, Clover. When you open carry, and I'm going to get the wording wrong, but I'm just going to go ahead and kind of get the idea. If you open carry and when you open carry, what position do you open carry and do you use retention? And I'm going to sit there and say, when I say retention, let's say, do you use a level 3 retention holster where it has to be manually ejected? You can't, just take it anyway.
Where do I open carry? Same position.
Okay.
That's the only position I open carry. So let me back that up. Concealed, there could be several. As far as open carry, yeah, it's at 2:30, 3 o'clock position every time. Do I use like active retention is what you're talking about, obviously. Sometimes just depends on the holster. Sometimes I'm not concerned with it. I'll put it to you that way. If somebody's close enough to me and getting grabby, then I've got a problem at that point. So there's something else is needing to take place at that point in my mind. I don't have a habit of break dancing and things like
that. I don't. Now, if you did, please video that. Please go live if you're going to do a jig.
Okay.
I think we'd all like to see that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gunpowder, open carry. What position do you carry open carry, and do you use a level 3 retention holster when doing it?
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
I don't use a retention holster.
Do you have any
No.
retention on your holster at all, whether it's a leather strap or whatever like that? Do you use any retention, or is it pretty much there?
I think it's pretty much there. We have a alien gear holster, so I think it just slides into it and it can slide out. But it's usually at 3, 4 o'clock.
Yep.
And I like it.
You left a lot. All right, Mike. Do you open carry, and if you do you use a retention holster?
I do not open carry, but when I was stationed in Georgia, I did have a retention holster, and I only open carry probably about 2 or 3 times and realized I really didn't like it.
Yeah.
But when I did carry, it was just like you'll see an officer, on his hip, much at the 3 o'clock position.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I did. I'm just typing in the chat. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. They're hearing Clover's crackle a little bit with his mic, and I was just letting them know it's nothing major. It's all good.
Crackling now?
Every now and then, not much, just a little bit. Just a little bit every now and then.
I'll mute.
It's no big deal. No, you don't have to mute. It's not bothering me. I didn't even really pay attention to it, but someone said that was her crackling, so I'll just say, hey, I think it's Clover's mic. But
yeah, I don't.
It's all good. So Tardot, let's go to Patriot first. Patriot, do you open carry? And I'm assuming might be retention holster there. I just, I have to assume that maybe.
I haven't open carried yet. The
okay.
only outside the waistband holster I have is for that SP-101, the Ruger.
Yeah.
It's the Phobos.
Yeah, I love Phobos stuff, man. For the price, they're great stuff.
And it was the only one that's local that I could actually find that was, halfway decent. And it has the screw or tension screw or whatever where you can tighten it up, but it doesn't have like a push button lock or anything on it. I probably would, to the mailbox just to freak out the neighbors. But as far as out in town, I don't think I'll probably just wear the every second.
Is that not like the greatest visual ever? Is a guy with glasses on? I mean, if you do it, you gotta go full out just to freak them out. The dark
the
sunglasses, the walking stick, and open carrying. Oh, that would be classic to do that.
Yeah. And the shirt that
reaction.
My daughter's shirt she got me that says "Dad," Dad's against daughters dating with the big AK on there. Yeah, that's
exactly. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't.
So, I mean, that's the only outside the waistband holster I got right now. I mean, I've looked into a couple, but it's kind of. I probably should lean more towards wearing the T-shirt that says stuff instead of actually flashing it. Yeah. We'll see.
I hear you.
Tardot. I'll open carry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What was that?
I was going to say maybe I'll open carry. when I'm hanging out with Ghost and Clover someday. I'll let you guys.
Anytime, my friend. Anytime. I'm looking forward to that day. First of all, Tardot. I know you say, especially the next 6 months or so, you might be doing a lot more open carry than in previous history. So, what kind of holster do you use, and what position?
Well, normally when I open carry, it's an RPG on my right arm with an American flag hanging over my left, and I'm running down the street now.
Your minigun?
Oh, go ahead.
Where's your minigun?
Oh, that's in my back pocket. No, when I'm usually open carrying, I use a lot of alien gear holsters because I went through several when I first started. And then when I got to alien gear, I liked it so much that pretty much became the holsters I bought. So I don't have the active retention normally. Now, when I'm carrying revolvers, I'll usually use, your traditional leather holsters like Bianchi or something. And usually they'll have the active retention where they have the thumb brake on a revolver. And, because it's usually a double action revolver, like with Patriot, the SP-101, something to that extent. And then I'll have active retention on those.
Einstein out there is being a funny man. Just being a funny man. We all see it, Einstein. Yeah. For me personally, I don't particularly like open carrying. I never have really liked it a whole lot for multiple reasons. One, if I do carry outside the waist, it's usually during the wintertime, and I'll have a fleece or a jacket, and so it's still concealed. For me, I like having the concealed carry. That's part of my lifestyle. I like inside the waist holsters. I like the concealed part of carrying a gun. That being said, on the 2nd of every month, I always carry outside the waist, and I always will carry at 3 o'clock. And I have a Marine Corps Kydex holster that I use my Glock 19 with, and I use that one. It has no retention on it, but I use that one for no other reason as it usually starts a conversation. They'll sit there and say, "Oh, cool holster." So they're looking at the holster, not even realize it's holding a gun. And they'll say, "Hey, it's a cool holster," or "Thanks for your service," or whatever. And that usually typically starts a conversation on the right note. Very few times everyone ever said, "You're carrying a gun." They'll sit there and say, "That's a cool holster." So I do that to start a conversation and hopefully transition that into why I think carrying a gun is important. But I always carry outside the waist at 3 o'clock with a non-retention Kydex holster for the Glock 19. So it is what it is, and you can take that and use it. Take all these guys and use it. I hope we've kind of maybe dispelled some myths out there. Hope we've given you some tips, kind of, and what we say is not the gospel. It's our personal opinions, and we're telling you to go research, go do your own research on topics, but we're kind of give you some tips on what we've known. I will say, make sure that if you're going to go concealed carry, that understand that it is a lifestyle, and sometimes your lifestyle does include maybe wardrobe changes and what you typically would wear. But there are a lot of things out there that you can wear. Untucked button-down shirts now that are meant to be untucked. Hawaiian shirts, if you're worried about printing. Hawaiian shirts cover up a lot of the printing because of the design on there. There's a lot of different things that you can do depending upon what you're looking for in your wardrobe. I will sit there and say, get some training and make sure you're practicing. I think Lance out there had asked anyone out there. I do not carry a Glock very often, Doc. I do carry a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield 9mm about 98% of the time. Sometimes I'll carry my PX4 Storm subcompact. Excuse me. Sometimes I do carry, like the 2nd of every month, I do carry my Glock 19. That being said, Lance had asked about, I think he asked about ankle holsters. We kind of touched on ankle holsters. I particularly don't like them. I think that they put you in a weird position, unless it's like someone said earlier, unless it's a backup gun and you got a little 380 or something down there, a 38 special revolver down there that's going to be an ankle holster. It's a backup gun. If that's your primary, I worry about the process, the time, and the mechanics of getting that gun to a quick firing position in a shit hit the fan moment. So I worry about ankle holsters being your primary carry position. That's just me. But it is what it is. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate you. But no, I want to say thanks to everybody for coming in. Let's run through the room real quick and let you plug what you got to plug. Tardot, let's start with you. What you got going on the channel?
I've actually started getting back to the videos again. I've got about 3 or 4 that are going to drop this week. And then we're getting back to doing clearing the chamber. We had it a little late this past weekend, but we're going to get back to that 8 p.m. Eastern time frame. So keep an eye out for that. We should be doing it this upcoming Saturday on Tardot 357 channel. So yeah, that's about it. Check me out on GunStreamer and GunTube also.
Appreciate you. Now I know you now, Patriot, I know you said you've just finished one. I don't know if you want to talk about it yet, but what do you have coming out on your channel?
I'm still working on the series as far as field stripping. I know it's kind of not.
Uh-oh.
I have 2 more, I guess. I want to catch up on the EDC series too, and then hit on some blind stuff. But I'm looking for any suggestions. If you guys got questions about a blind guy with a gun, I'm kind of biting on Mike's thing he does or whatever. But
podcast.
yeah, I'm out there.
Blind man with a gun.
YouTube, GunTube, and
That'd be a great
GunStreamer,
podcast, honestly.
and
I'm
Gun
serious.
Channel.
Mhm.
Blind man with a gun. That would get some people listening to that one. I guarantee it.
Oh,
I don't know. Go check out him. Go check out Patriot. Go check out Tardot. Mike, I know you got some stuff going on. You had a nice video drop this morning. What's going on?
Yeah, not too much. Since we are talking about getting Patriot started in the podcast with Blind Man with the Gun. For those who would like to listen to the podcast, you can find me weekly on the Black Man with the Gun podcast with Ken Blanchard, whereas we're talking about different tips and other events going on in the 2A community. So if you haven't done so, go download that app and show a little bit of love to Ken Blanchard and myself on the Black Man with the Gun podcast. For those who want to talk to me, give me a call at 803-250-1256. Leave a voicemail or a text message. And if you want to just talk and give me your opinion or views on different topics related in the 2A community, feel free to do so. You know, I will contact you back. All right. If you're interested in having me do a product review for you or someone, give me a call at 803-250-1256 or email me at info@m-wtactical.com, and I promise I will get back to you. Check out the video that I put in the chat. I'm going to repost it here shortly, but check out the video we put up this week on YouTube, GunTube, and UGEtube under M-W Tactical. And if you go to GunStreamer, look it up under Munitions Weapons Tactical. All right. Help us raise some money with the campaign we started to get 3 deputy sheriffs into some jiu-jitsu training at no cost to them or the department. Right now, we raised the funds to get 1 officer into training, but we're also looking to purchase some necessary equipment to start a summer youth camp and also to get people out to vote in the community. So visit gofundme.com/M-W Tactical and help us get that goal accomplished.
Andrew wants to know, are you or the Black Man with a Gun podcast, is it on, which one did he say? PodBean. Are you on PodBean?
That one I'm not certain, but I know if you got like the Google podcast, it's on there. It's on Stitcher. Because like when I listen to it, those are the 2 I normally go to when I copy and post it to share it to everybody. But I know you can look it up on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or just download the app and get it off the app, or just go to Google search and just put in Black Man with the Gun podcast and it should pop up on there.
Yep. I got a $5 super chat out there from Rick Nethery. He said, sorry, missed most of it, but great show. Semper Fi Ghost, brother. Thank you, Rick. Semper Fidelis, brother. That $5 is going to the end of the month of September. It goes to the Semper Fi Fund. It's a great fund that helps not just Marines. It is for all service people, men and women, but it's a way to get them back from overseas that might help with education or if they have to fix their house up because of disabilities now. It's all sorts of stuff that it's encompassing that they try to help out service members, men and women coming back that need special assistance in their life, whether it's counseling, mental stability counseling or whatever, PTSD, all that stuff. It's a great fund. So to the end of the month, all super chats are going to the Semper Fi Fund. So thank you so much, Rick. I really appreciate it. Let's see here. Who's up next? Gunpowder, what's going on with you and your own personal channel and the Gun Gals? What you guys got coming up?
We have
this is their book.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm still trying to come up with what all I want to do for my channel, but we're slowly getting that one figured out, and Tardot's helping me with getting Streamlabs or whatever that's called. I'm not all technical like he is, so I got to get his help on a lot of that stuff. But for Gun Gals, we have our live show every Sunday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And throughout the week, we are trying to get in some reviews on some products. We're going to be doing a range bag dump video. And we're going to start doing Sisterhood of the Traveling Concealed Carry Purses.
Like that.
It'll be fun. And anyone who has suggestions, comments, or just want to show us some love, you can email us at info@gun-gals.com. And thank you for having me tonight. It was awesome.
info@gun-gals.com. There's email, guys. It's in the chat. Yeah, thanks for coming. You guys are doing awesome stuff. And I'm intrigued about the traveling concealed carry purse. That's a pretty cool idea. So are you gonna have it like a week or a month and then pass it on, or how long are you gonna have it for?
Well, we're slowly starting to get some concealed purses in our possession, and it's going to be probably take them out a couple of times, whether it's within a month or every 3 months. It's just going to be doing a video first for what the purse is, and then we'll do a couple of videos, us using it, with us having little ones in the house from time to time, especially me and Liz. We've got kids in the house all the time. And then Armenthea has kids in the house a couple of times a week. It's going to be definitely interesting because we can throw in, how they hold up to little fingers messing with them, the messes that go along with having kids, how secure and safe they are around kids, and what it's like just having them with us, and what the pros and cons are for us. Since we're all different, we all like different styles and different sizes. It's going to be great to get each person's opinion on some of the purses that are available out there. And we're excited to start doing this and show other women that there are more options than just on body carry.
Right. I love it. I love it. Clover, the man who doesn't do anything. I mean, do you have anything going on? You never put any content out. You're never on live or anything. So, are you still active in the community?
It's bad when you get showed up by Night Strike week in and week out, ain't it? It's horrible. Now we got next gen. We did reschedule the shooter from South Africa. So that'll happen. Cool. That'll happen hopefully next week. But all's good with the craziness going around there. I've had several comments and emails going, "Hey, what happened? Is he okay?" Because they're in South Africa. So I'm like, no, it wasn't anything like that. It was all just, it has to do with the 7-hour time zone difference and all that good stuff. So, we got him rescheduled, and hopefully that'll go off without a hitch. But, we got one scheduled tomorrow. Can't remember the kiddo's name. And then Friday we've got Medieval Industries. So go over. It's mid-evil, just like it sounds. Not like medieval, not like kings and queens and knights. It's actually mid-evil. But anyway, Google that up. Medieval Industries. Kind of be ready for that show. They make a pretty cool grip, forward grip, and then have recently come out with like a tripod attachment that goes on that. So
really,
I think and then I think they've got some rails and some other things. So get over there if you're gonna jump on Friday. You think you are? Go over there, do your homework, kind of look up some of the products, get your questions ready, and we'll have them on Friday.
That's awesome. Go check out everybody on the panel, and go check out everyone's in the chat. Let's support our own and all of that. I want to say thanks to Ellis. He was here. He had to cut out because he had a date. So I guess we'll let him slide on that one. And he said he's going to have to cut out because he has a date tonight. So if you have Ellis's cell phone number, I challenge everybody to start sending him texts and give him hell while he's on his date. That's kind of mean, but why not?
You need to send him like random, I don't know, bikini chick pictures or something off the internet.
Exactly. Because you never know. If the date's not going well, we might actually help him have an excuse as to why he has to leave. He said, "My God, my phone is blowing up. I have an emergency. I've got to leave."
Right.
So we could be doing a little public service to our good buddy Ellis. So if you've got his cell number, blow his phone up. Let's do it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're watching a replay, thank you so much. If you just got here late and you want to go catch up, you can obviously catch it up here or on GunChannels.com. But you go to GunStreamer.com. You can go to UGEtube, Utah Gun Exchange. You can go to GunTube.org. The audio will obviously be pulled as it always is to be put on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, PodBean, Stitcher. I'm probably missing a couple in there somewhere. But someone asked about my next podcast, and I have started a dedicated podcast every 2 weeks. It's called the Armed Citizen Podcast. It comes out and drops every other Sunday. So this coming Sunday will be episode 2 of the Armed Citizen Podcast. We talk about what being an armed citizen means to different people and all of that. I'm not going to disclose who quite the guest is because what I want to do is I want to unveil it, and I'll unveil it probably Friday afternoon, maybe Saturday morning over on Patreon to my patrons first, and then Sunday afternoon it will be released to the public. But go check that out, and it's like I said, that's on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, PodBean, Stitcher, all of those good things. Go check it out because I'm really proud of it. It is not live. It is a pre-recorded podcast. I found that it's a lot easier to get people on to do an interview, a 30-minute interview. I'm trying to keep everything about 20 to 30 minutes, but I found it's a lot easier trying to get people on for a 30-minute interview instead of an hour live show at a specific day and a specific time where I can sit there and say, as long as you've got 30, 40 minutes to give me, then we can do this anytime you want. So I found it's a lot easier getting people to commit to doing interviews and all that way. So that's why I tried doing this, and I'm enjoying it, and we're going to see how it turns out. It may fail miserably, and that's fine, but I'm enjoying it, so I want to keep it going. But I want to say thank you to everybody out there for watching and listening. Please go support any of your Second Amendment organizations. Go submit your go and help support your local gun shops. The second of the month, next month, is coming up in about a couple of weeks. Go out there and support Every Second Matters. Make sure you vote. Make sure that you understand what politicians you're going to be supporting this midterm election this fall, both at the local, state, and federal level. This could be a very, very crucial time in our existence as far as the Second Amendment goes. So make sure that you are paying attention to the politics and make sure that you're understanding what each candidate stands for. But thank you once again for watching. I appreciate everyone as always, and we shall see you next week. Semper Fi.